Hello there, fellow gardeners, and welcome. Today, we are cracking the case of the disappearing cabbage. You know what I'm talking about, right? You walk out to your garden, and your beautiful brassicas look like someone took a hole punch to them overnight. Well, if that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place. We're going on the hunt for the infamous cabbage worm. I mean, you can just picture it, can't you? Those perfect, neat rows of cabbage, broccoli, maybe some kale. The leaves are just so crisp and vibrant. The heads are forming up beautifully. It's pretty much the definition of garden success. But then, you notice a little something. Just a small hole. And then you see another one. And pretty soon, that dream harvest of yours is, well, looking a little less dreamy. There's a secret, silent feast happening right under your nose.
Now look, this isn't just some random damage. Oh no, this is the work of a very specific and very, very hungry culprit. So let's go ahead and put on our detective hats and let's get to the bottom of this little garden mystery.
Okay, so first things first, in any good investigation, right? You gotta know your enemy. So let's take a closer look at the usual suspects who are responsible for all this leafy larceny.
So here's what's really interesting. We tend to just call them all cabbage worms, but the two most common culprits are actually totally different species. You've got the cabbage worm, which is the larva of that white butterfly you see everywhere, and then you have the cabbage looper, which comes from a brown moth. The looper has this really distinctive inching movement, see, because it's missing its middle legs. Now, knowing the difference is cool, but here's the good news. Our strategies will work on both of them. And here is the entire game plan of our little saboteur. The adult butterfly, she comes along and lays those teeny tiny eggs. Those eggs hatch into the larval stage, and that's the hungry little caterpillar that does all the damage. They just eat and eat, then they form a pupa, and then boom, a new butterfly emerges to start the whole thing all over again. So what's the key takeaway here? The larva is the problem for sure, but stopping the adult butterfly is the real end goal. So, what kind of evidence should you be looking for? Well, you see those pretty white butterflies dancing around your kale? They're not just admiring your work, they're leaving clues. But you know, often the very first thing you'll see are their droppings, which are called frass. If you spot these little dark green pellets, you can bet there's a perfectly camouflaged caterpillar hiding somewhere nearby. All right, now that we have officially identified our culprit, it is time to build up our defenses. Because, as any good detective will tell you, the absolute best way to solve a crime is to stop it from ever happening in the first place. And here it is. This is, hands down, the single most effective defense in your entire arsenal. Floating row covers are basically a physical shield. It is so simple but so brilliant. If the butterfly can't physically land on the leaf, it can't lay an egg. You literally stop the problem before the first bite is ever even taken. Why fight this battle alone, right? You can turn your garden into its own little self-defending ecosystem. By planting things like dill and cilantro, you can attract tiny parasitic wasps. Don't worry, they're our friends that actually take care of the cabbage worm eggs for you. And then strong-smelling herbs like thyme and mint, they can actually confuse the adult butterflies and make it way harder for them to even find your crops. Okay, check out this bit of garden psychology. It's so clever. The adult butterfly instinctively knows that its bright green caterpillar is going to stick out like a sore thumb on a red or purple leaf. That just makes it an easy snack for predators. So what do? They often just fly right on by. It's such a simple, beautiful, and effective strategy. Okay, so prevention is fantastic. We love prevention. But what happens if the enemy is already inside the gates? What if you already have an active infestation? Well, now it's time to launch a direct, organic counteroffensive. You know, your first line of attack is beautifully low-tech. Just being diligent about handpicking, especially in the mornings, can be incredibly effective. Just flip over those leaves, pick off the worms, and drop them in some soapy water. And this dusting trick is fascinating. The worms eat the cornmeal, but they can't digest it, so they swell up and die. So simple, but so potent. Now, you've probably heard people talk about BT spray. So what exactly is it? Well, you can think of it like a targeted bioweapon. It's a completely natural bacteria that's found in the soil, and it has a very, very specific effect. And luckily for us, that effect is pretty much exclusively on caterpillars. It leaves our bees, our ladybugs, and all our other garden allies completely unharmed. So how does this magic bullet actually work? It's pretty amazing. When a caterpillar takes a munch of a leaf that you've sprayed with BT, it ingests that bacteria. And that's when the bacteria starts to go to work, right inside the caterpillar's gut. And here is the really brilliant part. The damage to your plants stops almost immediately. The bacteria attacks their digestive system, which makes them unable to eat anymore. So they basically just stop eating and starve right there on the leaf. And just like that, your crop is saved from any more destruction. Now, BT isn't your only option for a spray. Neem oil works a little differently. It messes with the pest's hormones. And spinosad is another substance derived from bacteria. The most important thing to remember with these, though, is to use them responsibly. Spinosad, for instance, can be harmful to bees while it's still wet, so you always want to spray these products in the evening when our pollinator friends are less active.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've identified our culprits, we've built up our defenses, and we've learned exactly how to fight back. So here is the essential guide, your final takeaways that you need to remember. So what's the ultimate lesson here? It's that a multi-layered defense is always going to be a successful defense. It's about combining those physical barriers, like the row covers, with biological tools, like recruiting predators and using that targeted bacteria. And, of course, it's all held together by your own diligence as the official garden detective. And you know, after all that hard work, when you finally bring in your beautiful, hole-free harvest, here is one last little pro tip. A quick soak in some salt or vinegar water will gently coax out any little pests that might be hiding deep inside. That way, you can be sure your meal is just as perfect as your harvest. And there you have it. The case of the cabbage worm is officially solved. You now have the intel, you've got the tools, and you have the strategy. The power to protect your plants and ensure a truly bountiful harvest is officially in your hands. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with it?